Hey guys, welcome back to the Pack Talk podcast. We are here today with Max Dubois, who is an old friend and also one of our mentorees. And we wanted to have a quick chat because Max has been doing this for a while, 10 weeks.
Yeah, we're coming up on the first of at the end of your first 12 weeks, about to go into the next one. But your time at Pharos, obviously, you're an OG because you joined what in 2017, 2018? Yeah, was it
2018, I think.
I
To
thought it
be
was
honest,
2018.
every time I get the 1,000 class sort of milestone email, I get pissed because it's way more than that. Because
Way more.
you
You
didn't
just didn't
even
sign up
sign
for the
into
first year.
class when I was started at the gym. That wasn't even a function that you could take part in. So, but no, I'm obviously very happy to be here, and it's been awesome. I certainly couldn't imagine going anywhere else. We've been here for what, 8 years now? It feels like something
Yeah,
like
Yeah,
that. So it's been
literally
great.
8 years. And you've been on quite the journey because you've obviously taken every class at Pharos, done everything. You actually won the 6-week Limitless challenge when we did the partners edition. So you
Yeah,
again
I give credit where
dominated.
credit is due on that one. I'm not sure I would have made it as far if it was just me. So
That's
shout
what
out, Jen.
that's what support is all about, and how you know that you found the right partner that pushes you,
That's
that
right.
you bring
That's
out the
right.
best in each other. Totally.
That's right.
yeah, and it's been really interesting. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, obviously, is because you have like not a unique situation, but it is a situation that a lot of us kind of go through with injuries and so forth. And we've had to like adjust things and change things somewhat to deal with Max has a recurring back issue that crops up now and again and has kept him out of doing certain things. Um a lot of the stuff that we've always loved to do, like heavy back squats and heavy deadlifts and all that kind of stuff that makes you feel strong, we've had to adjust and modify somewhat. But as we've talked about, and I've said a lot, I seem to be saying this a lot lately, it becomes more about management than avoidance, and finding ways to achieve the same goals in a safer way that doesn't put us at the same risk. There is always risk in the gym, obviously, with whatever we do, but our job is to mitigate that risk, right, and get the results without the risks that might occur with certain movement patterns and certain exercises. So I see you kind of like as my kind of prime example of that right now. I'm basically building a whole program off our experience together.
The
Um,
Bulletproof Your Back
the
program.
Bulletproof Your Back
Yep.
program, which essentially is like it's the same as our normal kind of like build-based program,
Yeah.
but taking into account if someone has like a lower back problem, which
Yeah.
so many, to be honest, so many people do, so many guys do have that
Yeah.
Especially
issue,
if you're tall, such as
especially if you're
yourself.
Totally.
tall, especially if you have long femurs. It is a very common thing. So um, it gives me kind of like a different way to look at things, and also allows me to think about like what do we actually need in the gym, like what equipment
Hmm.
do we need, what pieces of equipment do we need that can really help with this situation. And then as we've been having these conversations, it just makes me think, yeah, this would be really useful, that would be really useful. Because I think we came from, when we first started build, and we all kind of came out of that kind of CrossFit world where, we were all deadlifting and back squatting, and functional movements were like the thing to do. And, we all wanted to be, badasses and warriors and all this stuff. And then as you get down the road a little bit, it's like, well, yes, that's great, but it ain't great for everybody. There's a reason why certain equipment does exist. And there's a reason why at a certain point in time, it was like, yeah, but what about this? What about that? What about this angle? What about that angle? Where is the tension actually meant to be? Is someone who's tall, who has long femurs, is a back squat actually the best thing for them to build up their legs? Probably not. Probably not. And I see it all the time with both men and women. And, not that I would ever bash like the back squat or the deadlift, but there are certain patterns that certainly suit some people better than they suit others. So if I look at a guy and he's 5'2" and he's, 185 pounds and he's deadlifting 500 reps, I'm like, that's great.
Don't
But
forget.
it's because
Yeah,
Your
very small levers.
your levers are very small. You're very low to the ground. You don't have to move that bar very, very far. So
Yeah.
there are definitely different things that work better for different people.
Yeah.
We have to take into account, you know, the anatomical shape of someone. We have to take into account the length of their levers. And we have to think about, okay, what is this person's immediate goal? What are the demands of their life? What's their work life? What's their family life? And what is the best and quickest way to get them where they want to go? And
Yeah.
that's how we have to approach like your situation.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, as someone who's done every program under the sun and worked out forever, how has your program evolved in this season of your life?
I said it actually to Jen just a few days ago where I'm like, I really feel like this in short has saved my back, right? Which is of course what we had set out to do, but even just 12 weeks into it. And like, I think to me, the biggest difference is like committing to something that gets you out of that cycle that is kind of like constantly, you know, every 4 months, 6 months, whatever it is, some sort of injury, right? And then like I haven't deadlifted, I haven't squatted. And I think for somebody that had done those things for a really long time, like you do have to kind of get in a headspace that decouples your sense of self and your sense of strength and all of that with what you're actually trying to accomplish on like a micro level. And like working on a pendulum squat and like committing to doing that every Monday for however many weeks it's been now. And like, yeah, that's a humbling piece of equipment right there, you know? But at the same time, it's like, I think the fear was like, oh, well, I'm going to sacrifice some level of strength here because I'm just simply not moving as much weight. And I don't know if that's true, honestly, you know, because I feel super strong. Like my lower half feels incredibly strong. And I think what's been really great is like I don't have the stiffness, I don't have the soreness, I don't have the lack of mobility or flexibility, you know, a few days after training legs that prevents me from doing something else, or you know, it causes a change to a movement pattern that actually creates the injury or anything, you know what I mean? So for me, that's been the biggest change is like, I don't wake up, you know, 2 days after lifting legs and like, yeah, sure, like my glutes will be sore and my legs are sore and like that's what's supposed to be sore, but there's almost always some byproduct of low back pain, you know what I mean? Or going and doing a heavy deadlift in the morning and like you're not really loose because you're dealing with some kind of recurring thing. And like now that's not even a part of the equation for me anymore. So that's kind of been the biggest difference is just like, yeah, you got to kind of like check the ego at the door a little bit, but in reality, like there's like so many more benefits that it's having on a day-to-day level. I don't really feel like I'm sacrificing the strength side of it. Like I still feel, you know, like you guys, we saw the yeah, I mean, literally, I was gonna say, like, you're seeing, you know, you guys see the in body, like the muscle gain is there, and like, you know, I feel strong, I look strong, like all that stuff, and I haven't put more than 30 pounds on on the pendulum squat since we started. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, all that stuff matters, and I think, yeah, like, you know, I just committing to that like actually does break you out of that cycle of injury and or even just discomfort. You know, like that's
Yeah.
been huge.
Yeah, I think a
And
lot of sorry,
sorry.
I was just gonna say I think a lot of people come into Pharos and they're like, because I train a lot of people in the gym and they're like, wow, I've never used this piece before. And they've like been here for years and never used a piece of equipment and stuff. And maybe
Yeah.
'cause they didn't know. And of course we got the QR codes and all of that. But a lot of
Yeah, but
people,
people don't.
like you
Right.
said, there's a sense of identity of being like, I'm just the kind of person that back squat. So I back squat and I split squat and I blah blah blah. And this is just like my routine. And opening yourself up to different angles, different arches, different like, ways that machines like isolate and target different muscle groups. That's why there's such a weirdly wonderful curated,
Yeah.
like set of equipment at each Pharos that feels kind of like, curated for each of the deficits of the movement patterns that we're
Yeah.
kind of seeing that when people are just, doing the global movement patterns in functional ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I would be hard pressed if I mean, I think if anybody that trains lower body and whether they're doing it because they're, you know, formerly coming from a CrossFit program or just like a more bodybuilding focused program, like if they committed to using that kind of equipment over a long enough period of time and doing it the right way, like there's just no way that they wouldn't have that be built into what they're doing for the foreseeable future. It's just like, it's awesome. So
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about identity, because a lot of people do, they see fitness as their identity, and they see the kind of fitness that they do as an identity. And I know that happened in CrossFit. And I think about our friend Anna, who almost, when they realize that they can't actually do that thing anymore or be
yeah,
competitive in that thing anymore, there's a coming to Jesus moment that's hard for
for
people.
sure.
Like, oh, I can't. This isn't who I am anymore. Or it's very difficult for people to accept. But then you have to ask yourself, well, what was the real reason I started this in the first place?
Yeah.
The real reason you started it is because you wanted to be strong and healthy and, maybe look good and have
Right.
some muscle or whatever. And there are many ways to do that. It doesn't need to
Yeah.
be that way. But because we've gone down that path and like we've been like applauded for that, and maybe everyone's told us we've been great at that, and so we've built that like identity up on our hands, like, oh, this is who I am. People seem to like that. We
Mhm.
attach that thing to us. Whereas that thing was only a means to do the thing that we're trying to do in the beginning, which is
Right.
get strong and healthy and
And
And chase
move.
after our kids, you're a
yeah,
new
yeah,
dad. So it's
Yeah.
like, getting up and
Yeah.
down, tummy time multiple
Yeah.
times a day and rotating around and reaching over and all of those kinds of,
Yeah, that's exactly right.
identity.
Just being able to move, but I think even, I mean, I don't know, again, like, I think, sure, it's obviously, I think, more important now as I'm, approaching 40 to, be healthy and be able to continue to move that way. But like, I mean, even when I was in my 20s, like, I think, again, like, if you're not really competing for any sort of like powerlifting kind of
right.
whatever, like, incorporating these into your programming, like, is only gonna help, and it would have limited injury and re-injury for me for 10 plus years on this kind of, so, I don't know. I mean, I
I
think
know
that
you kicked yourself last week. You were like, I just am mad that I didn't start sooner. Shoulda, woulda,
yeah, I
coulda.
mean, yeah, I guess, we're happy that we got there, but,
It's never
as
too
somebody
late.
who has dealt with and continues to deal with low back issues for,
Yeah.
the better part of 12, 15 years now, like, yeah, I think finding these kind of solutions would have certainly helped me in my journey, a long time ago.
And another one was core, right? Just to round out, like, if you were to say all of your programming, it's like playing around with different machines and being smart with the programming and having Pete kind of programs specifically for you as our
Yeah.
customer avatar of someone who wants to maintain the strength gains and feel strong and capable as they age,
Yeah.
even with injury.
Yeah.
What has kind of been the right weekly formula for you?
Yeah. So, basically what I've done is, Monday, Tuesday, P programming, and which I think, to your point, sort of mimics a build class, but much more modified for me personally, which is great. Wednesday, I'll usually do like a steady state cardio for somewhere between 30 and 50 minutes. And then I'll go into a core class with Amanda, which has been also awesome. I mean, again, I think like I didn't know this going into it. I guess it's pretty similar to like a mat Pilates sort of thing, which like I had been told forever, like, hey, take Pilates, you'll love it. And then here I am, and I'm like, oh, I guess this is already what I'm doing. So it's been great. But yeah, of course, like, strengthening your core, like that's how, again, to sort of like, it's about prevention and just like that maintenance of saving that area of your back and again, like mobility and all those things. I think for somebody like me where I think a lot of my problems come from, hip tilt, whether it's like anterior, right? Like, and I think spending that much time in core, and I think you get some of this stuff from yoga and things like that too, but you just become like way more acutely aware of like how your pelvis is situated and sort of the movement patterns around it. So obviously you're strengthening all those things, but just becoming more aware of like those kind of micro movements and taking that into the gym with you has been really helpful for me. And even just like everyday life, like outside the gym too, like, how I'm moving throughout my day, like that kind of stuff. I think of it a lot of times as like the cup runneth over, so if you're able to like manage those things throughout the day, not just in the gym, like how you get out of bed, how you brush your teeth, all that stuff. Like it sounds like minutia, but if you're just sort of thinking mechanically about how to do all that stuff, like it's just saving you in the long term.
Awareness is such a huge part of it. Like once you
Yeah.
get like really good body awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. So core once a week and then, Thursday, Friday, same thing, kind of more P programming. And then Saturday is kind of another, usually cardio day, but sometimes I'll go play softball, I'll do whatever. So that's like a little bit more mixed bag.
Cool.
Yeah, I
So
like to call Saturday rest and recreation.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like,
Sometimes I'll do
Very
arms
nice.
on Saturday and then do the recreation on
yeah,
Sunday. We'll kind of flip flop, but
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all
So
there.
4 main kind of strength and conditioning days, strength bias with a little power, 2 steady state days, and a focus on your core.
Yeah.
And
And if you guys had core on the weekends, I'd probably do core twice. So
yeah.
right.
There
take
you
that
go.
to the bank.
You should check out the repair though, because it's a little spicy. Because like people, Katie acknowledges that you need a little workout. People don't want to just come and do a yin. They need a little
Yeah. All
spice
right.
in
All
their
right.
life.
All
So
right.
try it out. Yeah.
Noted.
That's great.
Let's also touch on nutrition as well, because
Yeah.
we did start kind of a new nutritional program with a good supplementation regimen, I should say, and you've hit that pretty solidly. So how's that been
It's
adapting
been
to that?
awesome. I mean, again, I think like, I don't know how much or if it matters to get into this stuff, but like just pointing to the in body, right? Like we've done now, what, 3 of them from when we've started. Um, and I think the first one, after however many weeks, it was like, okay, we put on a bunch of muscle, fat composition was exactly the same, which was weird, but okay, we'll take it. And then the second one, continuing to add muscle, had done, a good job cutting down on fat. But the diet that entire time had been pretty consistent. So for me, yeah, I mean, the biggest thing as like a big guy, like I weigh 244 pounds or whatever it is now, eating enough protein throughout the day, like is a job, and that's been, I think the biggest thing that I've done that's been like a material change is, just making sure you hit that number, and in the past it's like, okay, I could hit that number, but you're sailing your fat or you're sailing your carbohydrates or whatever it is, which like, honestly, it's impossible to sail the carbs on that way
Yeah.
now. But, I think really being super conscientious about fat, has been the biggest difference in how we've kind of kept that body fat down now.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, like, meal prep has been something that I haven't been great about, but, we're getting better, but even still, just like making sure you hit that protein number and keeping everything else kind of in check. And, it doesn't have to be as intimidating or daunting as it seems. Like even now, like, you probably noticed because you're checking, I haven't been as good of logging it as I used to be because I've kind of gotten into the rhythm and I'm
You
like,
gotta
all right,
work. Yeah.
I'm gonna hit my number if I get this and this and this. And
And that's the goal. It's like
yeah,
never
that's
to
kind of where we're
be
at.
on the app 100% of the time. It's to
Yeah.
use the app to gain the intuition so that you
Yeah.
can make informed choices and then check back in with the app to course correct yourself and make sure,
Yeah.
like, are you being honest with yourself
Yeah.
or,
But that's the thing too. And it's like, it is a tool and it is super helpful. And if I didn't start tracking it from the get, then you're sort of just shooting in the dark. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I've
Yeah.
done it now for 10 weeks. I've got the framework kind of baked in. It's a little bit secondhand at this point, but, that has been an incredible asset just to be able to be like, okay, cool. Like I know where I'm at. I know this is what I need. If I have to make like a protein Greek yogurt bowl thing before I go to bed to make sure I hit my numbers, and that's what we're going to do. And, I think again, it's just like a way to hold you accountable, which is like what a lot of this ultimately is.
Yeah, and I say to everybody, like when it comes to results, once you get the consistency of training down and you're hitting that, if you just focus on hitting your protein goal, if you do those 2 things, you get your workouts done and you get your protein goal in, and ultimately you're going to get where you want to go. You're going to get the
Right.
results that you want.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to building muscle. Now, obviously, when you're talking about fat loss, like you do have to take into consideration overall caloric load, and that's where the fats and the carbs really come in. But when it comes to building lean muscle tissue, if you're doing the work and eating the protein, it will happen.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, again, it's a very doable thing for people. It's
Yeah.
easy to get overwhelmed with everything because there's so much that we can do. But if we
Yeah.
can focus on those 2 things, the protein and the workouts, we're going to make good
Yeah.
headway.
The other thing too, that I mean, even like just to speak to the protein intake a little bit more, right? Is like before we had sort of started this, I was, I I was trying to lose a little bit of weight. I wasn't super happy with how I looked. Like a lot of my bad weight sits like around my gut. Like I've got the spare tire thing, like a lot of us do. And I was just cutting, right? And like I was eating like, I mean, man, I wasn't tracking it, but like there were definitely days where I was like probably like 2,000 calories or less,
Right.
And I was like, well, if I operate in this deficit for long enough, like I will start to lose weight. and it just didn't happen. And it was like, you could tell like my body was just like holding on to anything and everything it could. And that it was discouraging because I'm like, man, I'm not eating anything. I'm like, this sucks. I'm like, I'm doing, what I'm supposed to be doing. But at the end of the day, like if you work out, I mean, even then, like I was still hitting the gym pretty hard. And not even coming close to those protein goals. Like my body just wasn't changing. And if anything, and I was feeling worse. I was like bloated all the time.
Yeah.
So I think that's been really helpful too. It's just like, it feels a little maybe counterintuitive, but
Yeah,
uh,
because many people place it from a place of restriction and they know the
right,
overall caloric need is there. So if
right,
I can just eat in a restriction for long enough, then it'll work. But if you're starving your body of its nutrients, it's just going to eat
didn't want,
away all your muscle
right.
tissue and continue to give you that. What'd you call it? A spare tire? That
Yeah,
is so
so
sad.
tired. We don't like that, but we're getting rid of it. We're almost there.
Yeah, we're good. We're
Seriously.
doing good. And then with the supplements, I mean,
Yeah,
supplements is always hard because it's not like, you take a supplement as a magic pill.
totally,
You don't know like what's, really like working and what's not really working.
totally.
All you can do is kind of like be consistent with it over time. And then if you get the results that you want, it's like, well, something's
Yeah.
working here. So we're doing the creatine. We're
Yep.
doing the,
And upping the creatine, right? I don't think
yeah.
we've talked about this on the
Oh,
podcast. Do you want to talk about that?
yeah. Well, we upped it. What are you on? You're on
Yeah.
10 or 15 now, Matt.
I'm like somewhere close to 15, definitely over 10.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we were like, just get it in as much as you can, really.
Yeah, get in as much as you can. Yeah, both for the physical effects, but also the mental the
Totally.
health effects. So, as you guys know, if you've been listening for a while, like what the studies are showing now is that the first 5 grams will be for your physical strength and your power output, and then anything after that is going to go towards cognitive health in activities. So, good idea to get in at least 10 grams of creatine, and studies are showing anywhere up to 20 grams can be
Yeah.
useful. So,
Especially for big dudes like you.
Especially if you're big dudes. I think the supplement stuff, yeah. I mean, look, like I think most things in life, right? Like it's not about some immediate transformative moment. Like I think you put one foot in front of the other long enough, then you experience some level of success. I think that's true of lots of stuff. And I think this is kind of no different, right? Like I take the cognition, the nootropics, I take fish oils, I take a test boost, I take creatine, I take D vitamins,
yeah.
all that stuff. Um,
D3K2, yeah.
and yeah, I don't know. I mean, like again, I think if we're looking at like the whole picture and the sum of all the parts, like it's hard to ignore any of that. I think like personally, I feel great. Like I think honestly, some of the mental cognition stuff is probably the stuff that I feel most obviously
Mm,
is different.
yeah, me too.
I mean, it's easy to see like, okay, like the physique and the body composition and the strength and the lack of injury. Like I think we can chalk a lot of that up to diet and programming. But I think the brain food side of the rest of it is certainly helping. And like, I don't, there's hard to find a downside in that.
Yeah, and also with the, we haven't had a lot of issues with inflammation, which has been good.
No, yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good shout. And I don't know I mean, you guys could probably speak to this, like if there's anything specifically in that stack that is meant
Well,
to sort
fish
of help
oil,
with that.
yeah, fish
Yeah.
oil
And
definitely
I
help with
that's
that.
been something that I personally struggle with a lot. And,
Yeah.
And something you had actually mentioned, I think it was at like week 6 or so, but you were like, it's crazy how much when I get my protein, I'm not as sore. Like you just dialed
totally,
up to not being as sore and not being as inflamed because you were hitting your protein goals, which I think
totally.
a lot of people forget about, especially if you're trying to lose fat and you're going for a restriction. It's like you have to nourish as much
Yeah.
as you can so that your body
Yeah.
it allows itself to change,
I mean, there would be days where I like, I wouldn't eat until like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then I would have like a salad for dinner, and I'm like, why do I feel bloated right now? Like I've barely eaten today, and then I mean, I haven't felt that way in
Yeah,
months. So
yeah.
Literally months. Yeah, it would have been like now over 3 months. Probably since like Christmas,
since
since
Christmas,
your last Christmas feast.
that's right.
So good. Any other things that you wanted to work on in the mentorship? Like we always say, it's about fitness and nutrition. Of course, people come in because they want transformation and losing
Yeah.
body fat and gains and everything like that. But some people come in because they want to maximize some habits and all of the lifestyle pillar, pieces. So was there anything else that you wanted to kind of come in, fine tune and work on?
I mean, I think like we talked about sort of structuring the day a little bit, and having those routines. Like I'm kind of like a routine rat. I always have been, and just kind of being able to like customize that and build that, shape that for every person, sort of like individually, right? Like everybody's kind of like a different wavelength. So that's been really helpful of just like, here's what we're going to do for the first like 60 minutes that you're awake. And here's what we're going to do for your workout. And here's what we're going to do when you come home. And here's what we're going to do before you go to bed. So all that's been really great. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, as somebody I think like who has been around the block a little bit when it comes to this stuff, like, I was mostly just like I wanted the programming and I wanted the sort of help with the diet, and that's kind of what I knew I needed. And we talked about it earlier, but just like having that accountability every week and just that like extra 20% of a kick in the pants to go do all this stuff, like that makes all the difference in the world, So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would maybe add on to that, that we got some opportunities to get some table time and work on
yeah, table time
stuff.
is
And I was like, I'll feed it for you just because I know that it's been a fun perk of yours. And also, like in the injury management, could we have gotten there without any of the soft tissue? Probably. We had mobility sequences, and you're a very regimented, disciplined person who will do the work. But it is really nice to also just, get hands on you, fully decompress, get you in some legs up the box positions on, and
yeah.
like kind of work on your psoas, get into your
Yeah. So it's
costal.
every other week we do that. So everybody knows it's every other week. I mean, in reality, like we probably could do it every week, but every other week has been great. And yeah, like any little thing that kind of pops up, any sort of stiffness, tightness, like we kind of address it. I had like a little bit of a shoulder thing for a second that we worked through. So yeah, I don't know, all that. It's just, again, to me, it's like, it's just like the maintenance of it. And even if you don't feel like there's a glaring need, committing to the maintenance of it, you know,
Yeah.
over a
Yeah, it
long
comes
enough
back to
period
that.
of time, like that's where the results come from.
Yeah, it comes
Totally.
back to that word management. Like you're managing everything through all these different like
100%.
angles, through the food, nutrition, the body work. How's the sleep been during this process?
Sleep's been good.
He
That's
says
another
that with
one.
the newborn, guys.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm very lucky. She sleeps through the night. So if I do wake up, it's usually not because of her. Yeah, sleep's been great. The magnesium has helped, maybe. I don't know. I've always been a pretty good sleeper for the most part. Um, so I think in general, most of the time I try to judge my sleep not based on whether I slept through the night or woke up a bunch. It's mostly just like, do I feel like I kind of want to attack the day when I wake up, whenever that is, And I think for the most part, we've felt that way. It also has helped me a lot too. And maybe this is like a product of me getting older. Um, for the longest time, I would get up really early. Alarm would go off like 5 something. I would try to get to the gym by like 6:30. And then, if that's like what you have to do, that's what you have to do. Fortunately, like I don't necessarily have to do that. So getting to the gym a little bit later now and giving my body like that hour of being like, okay, we're up, we're moving around, I'm doing some sort of mobility there, even if it's just like walking around making coffee, like getting that sort of just getting turned on for a little bit before I go do anything has also been super helpful, to where I'm not like spending the first, 30 minutes in the gym trying to get loose. Like that's been awesome. So
yeah. I always joke that if anybody saw me first thing in the morning, they'd be shocked. I mean, when I
dude,
first wake up, like me getting downstairs is just like the most hilarious sight because it's literally like one
yeah,
step.
you walk like sideways, you're like
Yeah,
holding.
He
it's just
does.
like my body just is not good when I first wake up. It takes me a good 30 minutes to like
All of it.
be mobile.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Pete always laughs at me because when we have to go drive to LA in the morning, I'm like, alarm at 3:50. I am out the door by 4.
That's how
And
I
Pete,
am.
yeah, and Pete's like, I set the alarm, I drink a cup of coffee, I shift and move.
I know. But again, it's like committing to that thing. Like I want to be up and out and go, but I'm like, all right, if I like, I'm up and now I have to like, I'll give myself this time to sort of allow that like waking up, turning on to happen. And it's been really helpful. Normally it's not how I would roll, but I think again, it's been something that I definitely think has made a difference.
But yeah, you definitely benefit from, because I'm like that. I now force myself that as soon as I get to the gym, I have to take the half an hour and do mobility.
Yeah.
You just keep lagging.
Yeah.
Hey, quick, did you have another?
No.
Okay, quick question. You've seen this. There's because you've been at the gym forever, right? So there's a ton of members who have been at the gym forever, and they're, base members. I know you keep to yourself and you just do your own thing, but I'm sure you haven't seen those people who are just phoning it in and doing their workouts and, doing that. And they've been at it for a while. And maybe you see a little bit of yourself in those.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh
What
yeah.
would you tell those people who are the high achieving, in it for lifer, who's been in fitness forever now and is trying to stay in it? What would you tell that person?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like you just got to break that pattern. And that's been the biggest thing is just like, I think that was me, right? I did build, every day for years. And then for whatever reason, I think injury probably had a lot to do with it. I started just doing like app-based workouts where I would go into the base and I would plug in my headphones and I would flip through whatever app subscription I had. And you mail it in, and I think that like for this, like it's the perfect way to still have that, like, this is my time and whatever that is. Like, I think for a lot of people, myself included, like their time in the gym, like is super therapeutic and you can kind of go there and zone in, and just kind of be with yourself for a little while. And like, however you want to do that is totally your prerogative. But for me, like having this kind of program set up the way that it is, like it allows you to continue to be able to do that. But with the accountability side of it to where you're like, all right, like here are the things that are laid out for me specifically that I know I need to do. And it gives you like that extra kind of kick in the pants to go do it that way. So, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's been pretty transformative to me for a bunch of reasons. And anybody that's curious, come talk. We'll say what's up.
It's like, so what do you say about Montessori, like freedom through structure?
Okay,
Yeah.
so our Montessori teacher is this Russian woman, and she's fantastic. Both Wyatt and Levi have gone through her. And I always say it's freedom through structure because that's exactly how she is. She's just like regimented, but
Yeah.
it's like the sky's the limit. Anywhere you want to go, but you have to create a little bit of structure so you can have
Yeah.
freedom within it.
Yeah. I think, sure. Like I like to think of myself as somebody who is pretty self-motivated. And largely that is the case. But at the end of the day, like, especially for people who have been doing this for so long, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like I've been in a weight room since I was 15, 16 years old. And I think, you need to sort of reshape how you do things at some point.
Yeah. And
Simple as that.
that's true of all of us. It doesn't matter, like, whether it's me, whether it's Emily, like, everybody needs to be held accountable by somebody at some point.
Totally.
And they need a little bit of a push, a little bit of, I mean, to this day, like my best training sessions are either in a class with a training partner, whether it's, that I'm training with, or when I'm being told to do something. So, you know,
Sure.
if I'm in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and it's out of my control, like, you know, I'm having to do what I'm being told to do, and it just takes me to a
Yeah.
different place than if
Yeah.
I like on my own.
And that was it for build. I mean, for me, like I loved build for so long. It was great. Like that was certainly like, I mean, pound for pound, probably the strongest I ever was, right? If we're measuring those sort of like typical metrics. And it was largely because of that. Like I was just somebody who would go to the gym and kind of do their own thing. And then Jen was like, hey, why don't you take these classes? And I was like, I don't know about that. And then I did, and I fell in love with it, and I did it every day for years,
Yeah.
and this
Yeah.
is kind of to me, and again, like speaking just for me, like it's like a much more applicable marriage of those two things where it's like, yeah,
Totally.
you have
Yeah.
that, you're going to go in the gym, you're going to do your thing, you're going to have your AirPods in or whatever. But it gives you that structure, the way that a build would without having that kind of class environment. So,
Yeah.
um,
Totally. Totally. Well, brother, thank you so much for doing it. We really appreciate it. It's been so great working with you, and we're going to keep working together.
yeah, absolutely.
It's been a super fun experience for us because it's like I said, it's an example of management. It's an example of like life is not linear. Like we're not always going to feel like great. We're always going to deal with injuries. We're always going to deal with things that crop up. So how do we deal with it? How do we manage it? And how do we move forward in a successful way? And that's the whole point of this. Really, is
Yeah.
finding solutions.
And personally, for Peter and I, to get back to connecting with our peeps. And so,
Yeah.
we joke, but it's like we built the accelerator and the program for the 500 club member, like for the OG, for like our like avatar of the OG member training with us, that before we started checking in and before the 500 club existed, you know? So it's been like really awesome for us to kind of get back to the heart of what it is that, why Peter and I do what we do and why we love doing it, and building the community that we have. So thanks for trusting us and being with
Hell
us.
yeah. I couldn't spread the gospel anymore. I'm going to be in the best shape of my life at 40 years old. So if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know, then I don't know what does.
Awesome. All right, brother. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate the time.
Yeah, appreciate you.
We'll see you guys next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye. Also, if you are tuning in, if you are interested, we are doing another 7-day accelerator. That is basically our 6-week Limitless challenge boiled down into 7 days of fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle education and connection with us. We build you a 90-day roadmap, and you get to connect with us. That's going to be the last week in April. So if you're curious about that, get in now, sign up so that way you can get the quiz. We can start working on your roadmap, meeting with you one-on-one, and getting us prepared, by the summer. So tune in, get the link in on the description, and join in.
See you soon, guys.